Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rise and Shine. Get up, wake up, get out of bed. You're all out of bed, I'm sure, but get your coffee, sit down, listen. For the next hour, we're going to be talking about Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. I am super excited. We have a great lineup of guests today, and want to just recap. Day one was just phenomenal. It was just a great day. For those of us that were here in Washington, really super exciting, but it was actually exciting all around the country. If you've been following our pilot and information that we have of all the great work that's being done by our state advocate for adult education fellows from COABE and the State Association Leadership Institute, and they're just kicking it. It's so incredible. We have proclamations coming in and press releases and events, and all you got to do is check out the COABE website and you'll see so many of the events and things that are happening this week. But yesterday was really wonderful. We kicked off yesterday morning with the Assistant Secretary Amy Lloyd was on, and she really set the tone for the week. It's really really impressive and exciting. So we have here in Washington, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of things happening, a lot of legislators that are meeting with everyone, and we know this is happening at every level. So let's get to it. I want to share a little bit more about what's happening this week. You're going to hear from a few great guests today. We have Judy Mortrude on tap. We have Daniela Mancusi-Shreve. We have Samantha Smith and Stephenie Rittberger are all going to be on this morning. We're going to crunch in a lot of information in really this next hour. But I'm going to tell you truthfully that this is Adult Education Family Literacy Week, and everyone plays a role in what's being done in the adult education field. If you are an instructor, if you're a student, if you're an administrator, you all have some role to play in advancing the ball for adult education in our country. And although as I said yesterday, Adult Education and Family Literacy Week should be Family Literacy Day, because it should be every day of the year. The truth is that this one week, we really want to concentrate our efforts and get our messaging out and let people know how important it is and why adult education really needs the attention of our legislators to make change happen, all the way down to our learners. So I want to get right to it because we have a lot to talk about today. And big shout out again to RTI International, who's giving us some space today to host this in Washington. And want to thank them for really accommodating us and making sure we had a place for this podcast. So Rise and Shine is going to kick off with our really first guest, which is, I call her a friend, Judy Mortrude, Senior Technical Advisor at World Education. I've had the opportunity and privilege to work with Judy over the past years in really advancing the ball in adult education. And there can be no better person to really give us the ins and outs of what we need to know when it comes to adult ed. Hi, Judy. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Great to be with you. Great to share in your passion and energy. Nobody can kick off a morning like you.
I know it. This is I'm really excited. I'm excited when I saw your name on the list for being a guest on the show, because honestly, I'm constantly learning about the ins and outs of NRS and a lot of the technical applications of things that we have to do in the adult education field. And every time I have a question, I'm sending you that email and saying, Judy, what do you got on this? Like, I need to understand this better. And you've been awesome because you just have this wealth of knowledge. So I want you to kick us off a little bit and tell us, Adult Education Family Literacy Week is our time to educate the public and legislators. And I guess I want to give you some room here to talk about what is it that we need to know as educators, instructors, as administrators, and as people advocating for change.
Great. Yeah. Well, that's a big question, and I think I'll go back to. You're the policy chair for COABE, and we're going to go pretty deep into policy right here in your first 20-minute segment, because there is this sort of unprecedented opportunity right now, which is open for the next week only, for anybody who's a stakeholder in adult education, any teacher, any administrator, any state staffer, any student who wants to weigh in on how we should tell the story of adult education's impact, what kind of learning we should measure, how we should measure it, for whom. So the National Reporting System, as you said, has got a public comment document up right now that stays open until the 25th of September. if national reporting system is a new term for anybody listening, it really is just the way that states report up to the federal government about the outcomes of their adult education programs. And it started way back when. It started, with the Workforce Investment Act in 1998. I got my first full-time job in adult education because CASAS testing came to our state and people were like, what? So we had to do a lot of work to bring about this sort of, standardizing of the field. And it was great to have a way to document learning that was happening in our programs and really compare our programs to one another and learn from each other about how we were measuring learning. But that was a long time ago, and we are in a different place now where we recognize there are other ways to measure learning. There are real authentic ways in integrated education and training programs and workplace programs. Certainly in corrections ed programs, we need to think about what really matters to the learner, and oftentimes that is not gaining points on a standardized post test. So. The good news is that COABE is really here to help and has got some great tools to help people put in their comment. I want to say again, anybody who's a stakeholder, anybody who's got interest in the field of adult education can submit a public comment about the topic that's up for discussion right now, which is performance accountability. And so, yeah, great. Lindsay's putting up some things into the chat. Yesterday, Amy Lloyd was on, and she is really a visionary leader. I mean, I think one of the things that we have really got going for us in adult education right now is leadership at Octave. We've got, not only the political leadership of Amy Lloyd and Secretary Cardona, we've got the civil service leadership. Latoya Newsom entering the position of the director of the Division of Adult Education and Literacy. So I feel like the stars are aligned. Now they've offered this opportunity for us to say what matters to us in performance accountability. And COABE is helping out by showing people how and where.
So it's really simple. So we're going to back up a little bit, but first of all, everyone that's out there, submit your letter. It's really simple. It doesn't get any easier with COABE. They give you the form. All you need to do is download the form and send your, and they give you the template. All you need to do is kind of sign it, fill it in, and boom, you're out there. But let's back up. So I do believe that a person without data is just another person with an opinion. And NRS really does that. It gives us the data that we need to make our case. Absolutely. But it's an imperfect system. And I think one of the things that's happening and one of the things that we need to advocate for is a relook at some things that are in our NRS that are really going to show what we're doing in the field. What are our outcomes? What are the results of the work that we're doing? And that's why this in particular is so important. So can you drill down for us a little bit about what we're asking? What is it that we want to see changed in the NRS data that's set forth in the letter?
Sure. So during the pandemic, right, we were offered some flexibilities in adult education. We were offered the flexibility of provisional placement. And it was hard for our system to even figure out what that meant because we didn't know how to serve people without first giving them a test. But states learned they could assess, using other tools, figure out what people's needs were and how to address them. And right now we're being given that flexibility into the future, a way to document people's learning without using what we've always used for a very long time, a post test, a paired standardized post test as the way to document learning. So, so this is an opportunity for us to measure things like digital skill building. We know how much time, energy, blood, sweat, tears adult education programs spend on helping people build up their digital literacy skills, a crucial literacy for the world today. And we need a way to document that. So one of the things the COABE letter is asking for is explicitly detailing how we would document digital literacy skill gain. Another thing that I see people commenting on, and this included in the COABE letter, is documenting subtests inside of high school equivalency. So a GED, a high set, even a competency-based high school diploma that some states have. You know, it's a milestone if you could pass that GED math test, and it means a lot to the individual, and it documents some real learning against standards, right? We, as you say, we want to document, measure, and document learning, and we could do that. We need the NRS to tell us how and where inside the WIOA measurable skill gains.
So I love it. So what we're really asking to do is to bring everything that has been said as our in the systems, to bring it up to speed today. And one of the things, and I'm here in Washington on the IET design camp for corrections, and one of the things are IETs and the integrated education training for those that are unaware. This is like an awesome model. It's incredible because it takes a math instructor teaching fractions and puts them in or near a room where a carpentry teacher is teaching carpentry, and puts some workforce preparedness with it. And it just meets checks off every single box for an adult learner to get them to a career pathway. And yet we don't really have a good way of looking at those outcomes and really giving credit to our learners for achieving the goals in an IET program. And I think that's part of the discussion, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I love about Assistant Secretary Lloyd's letter is that she calls out, this idea of modernizing our performance accountability, and that yes, in IET programs, in workplace adult education and literacy programs, and in other programs, maybe programs that are operating now that we haven't yet quite named that program model, right? There are people innovating, there are people creating programs designed. I think here's the important thing, right? You are designing a program where you know these are the learning outcomes I'm going for, and these are the places in the program I'm going to measure them and document them. Right? It's not a surprise. It's not 80 hours of instruction and then a post test. Right? It is, I have planned this program with these learning objectives in mind. Here's how I'm going to measure them. Here's how I'm going to document them. And I'm going to get credit for it in the adult education system.
Yeah, so this is so important to the field going forward, because a lot of this runs to funding. It runs to how much money your agency might be entitled to, or how much you could get for these opportunities and documenting your outcomes. How tied to funding and how important is this, and changing the NRS standards to where people are actually getting their money to pay salaries and staff and resources?
Sure. Well, some states have performance-based funding, so those getting those measurable skill gains, and that is typically like 99% of the time has meant post-test education function level gains is absolutely critical, right? Because every dollar they get, or a certain percentage of the dollars they get, are tied to making gains in that system, documenting gains in that system. So yeah, very clearly, and I love that you bring up funding, Jeff, because I just, again, kind of heavy. First topic we're doing right here is asking people to go to the NRS, but I really believe that we can talk all day about innovation and program models, but unless we give people a way to get credit and to get funding for those innovations, it just won't scale and it won't sustain. So those are the two keys, right? We got to get credit, we got to get funding, and then we can make the real magic work.
You're getting hearts from a lot of people out there, Judy, on that. So, and it's so true. I will tell you, you said this is heavy. It's not heavy. What it is, it's really important. And I think many of people that work in the field, including myself, have always been fearful when we deal into NRS and really making change happen. And you kind of dive head first into it all and just tackle it head on. And I think we have to get over that fear. And COABE's made it really simple with the NRS, the letter template that's provided, and submitting your letter. It's just super easy to be able to do. How important is it for us to get voice in the field on this? And, why should the people watching this and people that are in COABE, why should they be submitting this letter at this point?
Yeah, great question. Well, when they make rule changes, you know, when the federal agencies make rule changes, they have these public comment periods. They draft up documents and put them up for a certain period of time, 60 days usually, and during that time, anybody can comment. I will say, again, I'm going to flag Amy Lloyd's letter, which was sort of unprecedented, you know, flag up the flagpole of, hey, this is open right now. We really are serious about hearing from you. So they've really invited people to submit. And what happens when you submit a comment, and again, you can download that letter, you can edit the letter, you can submit the letter. You can also just go to the Federal Register website, the link that Lindsay put in, and type a comment in the comment box, right? It doesn't have to be any more formal than that. You can do both. You can do your organization and one personally. And what happens is that then the federal government has to read and respond to all of those comments. So it's important to sort of give your credibility, say like, hey, I've been doing this work for this long, this is what I see, this is how making a change X, Y, and Z would benefit the adult education system, my learners, my program, right? It is your voices that are really going to make this real to the, you know, the policymakers in Washington, D.C. who have to create this new policy.
So I think and that's a really good point. You know, this is a going into the Federal Register is not something that we do every day. Like we don't wake up every morning and think about putting a comment in, but the impact of it is significant. And the more people that can comment on these issues, and the more that we can educate the department that this is a priority for the field, the more likely they are to act, to really take your voice and really do something about it, especially as this comment period comes to a close and they look at legislation and regulations that are going to be binding on everyone going forward. So not having a voice is just not an option in this. We all need to jump in. And again, the template is there. The letters are there, super simple. I'd be remiss, Judy, is there any other, anything else high on your radar screen? We're talking about NRS standards. Anything else that you want our advocates out there thinking about or being able to share with the field during this week?
You know, I think this is really number one for me. One reason, because it's so time bound. We have a week. I really would encourage people to copy those links and share them out with your networks and really promote, you know, have a little NRS comment party, do it together on Zoom. It's actually kind of fun, and actually go to the Federal Register, read what people have written. You will hear some of the things that you believe being echoed there. So that's top of mind for me. I mean, I know people are visiting with their legislators. I think talking to their legislators about adult education modernizing, about adult education really tackling digital equity and digital skill building for people in states and communities is really important to flag, and then to talk about those new innovative models like you were talking about, Jeff.
We have so many people across the country that are in all of our states doing really great work. And the one thing I often hear is, well, we're concentrating on what's happening in our state. And the truth is, what's happening at a federal level impacts your state. And if you really want to have an impact on what you're seeing in the field in your particular state, in your region, one of the best ways of doing it is really getting involved on this particular issue and getting into the comment period. So here's your opportunity. Really super easy lift. If you have a a second today, just cut and paste the letter, get it out there, put it in the Federal Register, and make sure everybody knows it's a really important issue. And really super appreciate it. Judy, you've been doing such great work in this field for the longest time, and I know that you've been so helpful to me and to others that I work with in just answering questions that we have about what can be really complicated issues sometimes when we talk about NRS data and some of the federal regulations and things. But I wanted to give you a big shout out and thank you for all that you do, and really you got this special place for me because number one, you're my go-to on all this, but number two is you really keep the field informed, and I think that is that's the secret sauce in a lot of this. This is Adult Education Family Literacy Week, and before I let you go, so we can get to our next guest, I'm giving you, like I give to some of my guests on the Rise and Shine, is my magic wand, and I got a feeling what I know you're going to be doing with it. But if you got the magic wand in your hand and you're going to put a spell on for AFL week for all of our people listening, what are you going to be telling them?
Oh, I'm going to tell them now's the chance to return learning measurement into the hands of teachers, and let's take it. Let's run with it, because we know the amazing work we do and the lives we change. So I put my email there. Anybody have questions about any of these things we've talked about and you want to reach out to me, feel free. And thank you, Jeff, and thank you, COABE. Really appreciate it.
Judy, thank you so much. It's great having you on. So we're here at Rise and Shine, and Judy Mortrude from World Education, World Ed. We are just thrilled to have her on. And again, yeah, we started off pretty heavy today, but it is so important, NRS standards, and getting those NRS standards revised and getting that public comment out there is super important. I want to go right into our next guest because we got a lot more to do today. And the next two people that are going to pop on today are Daniela Mancusi-Shreve, I think I've said it right, and Samantha Smith. So both of them are from the Center for Workforce Innovation. Samantha is Director of Adult Education, and Daniela is an adult ed instructor and also work ethic project manager. We're going to be talking about both of those things. But Samantha and Daniela, how are you both? Thank you for jumping on.
Good morning. Great, Jeff. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's great to see both of you. So I want to kick off with Samantha, and I was hoping that you can give us a little bit about the Center for Workforce Innovation. What do you do, and what's some of the great work you're doing?
Thank you, first of all, and good morning, everyone. My name is Samantha Smith with the Center for Workforce Innovations, and we are here in Northwest Indiana, where we are basically helping to support our communities with adult learning centers, adult education services, training, just whatever additional services that individuals need in order to be able to move forward with their families and with different career opportunities.
I love it. So tell me, go into a little more detail if you can, Samantha, about what kind of programming the Workforce Innovation Center offers.
Well, currently we are working on, as far as the adult education portion, we are working on different trainings that offer our participants the opportunity to be able to get skilled up to go into specific fields. So I know for us, we are doing something that puts people in closer proximity with healthcare careers, with manufacturing careers. Also, we have a parapro training that helps put people, redirect them back into the educational system. We're also connecting with our local corrections and county jails to be able to support those individuals who have been justice impacted to be able to go back into their communities and serve.
Just great stuff. Great stuff. So for the longest time, you know, the Department of Education, all of our education systems and our Department of Labor they never really connected truthfully. And now finally we're recognizing how important education is to the development of a career pathway and workforce development. And it seems like you're putting all the pieces together. And I want to go to Daniela for a little bit, because I was hoping you can share your experiences and your story as an instructor and the work that you do there.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, I've been in adult education for about 20 years, and I started myself as a volunteer and then worked up to being an adult ed instructor. And I came into adult ed after leaving the K through 12 system. I was a post-secondary teacher. And when I was a stay-at-home mom with my children, you know, I needed some intellectual stimulation. I wanted to get back out in the workforce, but I wanted to make a real difference in the lives that needed it most. So a friend actually told me about a local learning center, and I started volunteering, and here I am. And the Center of Workforce Innovations does a really great job at bridging adult education and workforce training. We do a lot together to help not only get students to achieve their high school completion, HSE, but life doesn't stop. That we provide, you know, career training, access to IETs and credentials. So when they have that diploma, they can move on into the workforce and better support their families.
Yes, and isn't that what it's really about? You know, adult education is a pathway. It's starting somewhere with some really basic things like math and reading, making sure everybody, and then understanding that, you know, there's a digital literacy component to it, and there's all the other pieces. But the ultimate goal is to get people to be successful in a career pathway or in life in general. And the Workforce Innovation Center is just, it's an amazing place for to make that connection, to make that bridge. So can guide us a little bit, Daniela, as an instructor. You see what's happening on a daily basis, but what are the challenges that you're seeing our students are facing?
Oh, our students have so many barriers to overcome, and we guide them on a daily basis, whether it's childcare, lack of transportation. Some of them are food insecure. So, I provide snacks regularly in my classroom. We have career advisors that we're partnered with that have funds through the Workforce and Innovations and Opportunities Act that can provide gas cards, that can provide gift cards to shop at Goodwill, for example, for career clothing. So we work in tandem with our career advisors to support and encourage our students to success.
Yeah, it takes a village, doesn't it? It's not,
Mhm.
it takes a village. And one of the challenges, quite honestly, is that a recognition that as instructors and teachers across the country, that the really persistence and the persistence issue happens outside of the walls of the classroom. The little things like, how do you get to class, and how do you work around your work schedule, and how do you take care of your kids, and how do you get diapers, and how do you support yourself and have shelter and food and transportation, all those things you just talked about. And recognizing in the adult education field that we sometimes need to go outside of our classroom to help support our learners so that they can succeed. And it sounds like you guys are really doing that. You've hit the nail on the head. You part of your title, before I get back to Samantha, but part of your title is a work ethic project manager. And I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that?
Okay. Well, I'm nationally certified in work ethic. And in addition to teaching adult education, I manage some certification initiatives in work ethic with high schools throughout Northwest Indiana, where students grades 9 through 12 who are in school can earn work ethic certification. But I'm currently trying to launch a work ethic certification program for adult learners. And in my instruction, I've embedded work ethic into the curriculum. We do a fast track once a month, and we've offered work ethic training as part of that fast track to HSE success.
That is just super. So one of the things that I hear from employers all over the place is, look, they said, Mr. A, I can teach anyone to do anything in my place of employment. Like, I can teach them everything, but I can't teach them how to be on time. I can't teach them how to wear their pants so their butt crack's not showing. I can't teach them how to deal with conflict in the workplace and all those things that happen. And it's so important to build those into the programs that we do. So I'm so glad and grateful to see that that's actually happening. That's awesome. Samantha, I want to come back to you for a second, because as the director of adult education, I'm curious, like, there's got to be a message during this week of adult education and family literacy week and going forward that you would want to get to legislators at all levels, not just at a state level or local level, but also at the federal level. So as an administrator of a program and the director of education, what's that message you want people to hear from you about the work you're doing in Indiana? There. We might be having a little bit of technical problems, but Danielle, you want to pick up and see if you can
Respond. One of my favorite quotes is, unless somebody cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So if we don't collaborate and get out on the streets and advocate and perform research, people aren't going to know we're here and that we care about their success.
Yeah, and it really is about caring. It's getting people to understand how are and how important our instructors are and in the field. I was wondering if you could share a little bit, Daniela, too, about, the professional responsibility and the professional development of your teachers, and that's something I don't think we give enough attention to. Like, in order to be better at what we do, we need professional development and training. And I was wondering, from your perspective, what is it in the professional development field or area that you like to see push forward?
I like to see a lot of collaboration, networking, sharing of best practices. In fact, our state does a pretty good job with professional development. Next week is our state conference, and COABE will be present there. And then, as a matter of fact, at the end of today, I have a 1-hour wonder with my colleagues to share best practices, what's working in my classroom, what's not working, how to reach certain students and help them overcome their barriers.
Wow, that's awesome. So, advocacy in workforce development, I'll open this up to both you and to Samantha if you like, and if she can get back on. Advocacy is something that we've often shy away from as educators and even as students. I don't think our learners stand up enough and say, hey, this is important to us. This was important to me. Here's my success story. And I'm wondering if you might be able to share maybe a story that of someone that's been impacted by the work that you do at the Center for Workforce Innovation.
I could talk all day on success stories. So, as
it.
you know, COABE's Adult Learner of the Year, Mallory Balch, was one of my students, and she's doing great. She has gotten herself out of homelessness, recovered from addiction and incarceration. She has a home, and is in a safe place and making great progress. She's helped advocate in our communities with me. I've had other students, atypical. I have a particular student right now that severe illness derailed her high school career. During her sophomore year in high school, she was 4th in her class, but she experienced severe illness and came to us and has since earned her HSE and is now doing a work experience assisting me in my learning centers.
That is fantastic. Samantha, I'm glad to see you jump back on and pulled out, came back in. Thank you so much for that. Samantha, I want to throw it to you. We're talking about success stories, and you must see a lot of them where you are. And I was wondering if there's any that sing to you that you kind of that resonate with you and you share out when you talk to the public and talk to whoever you're wherever you're speaking at.
Gotcha. So first of all, I'm very fortunate to have made the transition from serving Georgia residents in adult education to coming to Indiana, and hundreds of stories as it relates to just individuals striving to do better, to be better, and to ultimately grow. And I think the one story that's impacted me the most in a part of my journey as an adult ed practitioner was out of a small county city in Georgia, Screven County, Georgia, Sylvania. And it was during the pandemic. And one of my students in that area, let's just say, conditions weren't the best, access to certain resources weren't the best, and she was striving to get her HSC. And so she would literally come and park her van in the parking lot of our center where she had access to the Wi-Fi. But from that van, she also had 4 children who were sharing a tablet in order to get their homework done because of the constraints with the pandemic. They had packed lunches. The only thing they didn't have was the bathroom, which I think they used the local restaurant for the restroom. But to me, that just speaks to the level of perseverance that adult learners have when it comes to wanting to better themselves. For herself and her family, she did go on to get her HSC. Just the transition from Georgia to Indiana and even encountering the students here in the short time I've been here has been absolutely amazing. And it's been consistent across the board. People want to grow, people want to change their lives, and ultimately people want to be able to say that, I did this, and programs nationwide are able to help facilitate those things.
I love it. So that's just it's a touching story, and probably there's probably more of them out there than we could possibly imagine. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm curious from both of you, maybe Samantha, if you could chime in on this, is about the funding piece. You know, one of the things we're asking of our legislators, not only locally but federally, is to increase federal funding dollars for adult education across the country. How important is funding where you are? I mean, other than the obvious, and what efforts do you take both locally and nationally to kind of advocate for additional funding dollars?
I think the funding portion, if legislators would just kind of picture themselves like going to a restaurant maybe and sitting down in front of a big sumptuous meal, everything prepared just perfectly for them. And then the waiter comes up and says, you know, enjoy your meal. And then they go to eat, and then the forks and the spoons and the cups are missing. They don't have anything. That's kind of the same thing that we're asking adult learners to do. Enjoy this huge plate of success, but do it without the necessary tools. And for me, the funding represents those necessary tools in order to be able to dig into or enjoy or savor success. So for us, we have got to make sure legislators understand the importance of the wraparound services, the additional supports that are tied to adult education, to ensure that our students can go and enjoy the success, whatever that looks like for them, and that we're not handicapping them from the beginning.
Well, you are just getting all these applause left and right in our chat box, because I think you've kind of nailed it. You probably can drop the microphone and just leave right now, because that is, I think you hit it on the head when we talked about just understanding how important all this funding is. And I want people to understand too that COABE is there as an organization that supports educators and supports our students and our student learners across the country. And we're giving you some of the utensils that you need. We're giving you some of those things that really will help you eat that meal. And our job now is to share them with legislators at both a local, state, and federal level, and show them, you know, these are the tools you need to be able to eat that meal, and we're going to help you get there. Daniela, I want to, we only have a minute or two left, but it is Adult Education Family Literacy Week, and I wanted to before we let you both go, I wonder if you could share with us what is something that's on your wish list. If you had something that you'd want to see happen this week and a message that you want to get out, what is it that you would want to see happen, or that you would want to make your classrooms and your students stronger and your programs stronger?
I would like all my colleagues to go to the COABE website and check out the data that's there, because I really love what you say, Jeff. A person without data is just another person without an opinion. And as a SAFE fellow, I've been researching so much data and legislation since last spring. And I plan to use that data to launch a meeting with Congressman Mervin on Thursday. But I've also already encouraged my colleagues in Northwest Indiana and across the state to start writing their legislators. I gave them links to the COABE templates. I emailed links to some of the bills, some of the federal legislation that's pending, so that they can help us advocate for the reauthorization of the WIOA funding and other programs and initiatives that need to continue.
I love it. I love it. Before I have you wrap up on that question, Samantha, I just got to give a shout out to our State Advocate for Adult Education Fellowship Program, the SAFE Fellows through COABE. And you can see the work that Daniela, she's just one of a whole team across the country of our SAFE Fellows that are just doing unbelievable work. And they are having meetings and press releases, and they're engaged in Twitter storms, and you name it, they're doing it to really make change happen for everybody. So SAFE Fellows, if you're out there, you keep up the great work, especially this week and going through the program. You're absolutely just amazing. Samantha, before we go into our next guest, can you share with us a little bit of your wish? Like, if you could have one wish to happen during this Adult Education Week, you want to make sure that people are aware of that can really help your agency, and then also give us how we can reach you if we want to get more information on your program.
Gotcha. Well, I think the only way to kind of describe my wish list, I was sharing with my instructors over the last 2 weeks that my Georgia adult ed family, we had this saying, and it was adult education practitioners are like magicians. So this is perfect, right? We're like magicians. We take what society has deemed nothing and nobodies, and we turn them into somebodies. And so I would just strongly encourage all of my fellow practitioners, instructors, community-based organizations, anybody, even the employers, anyone that leaves a mark on our students, I would just encourage you to lean into, my wish would be that we would lean into our intentional efforts to create an amazing experience for all of our adult learners. When these students come from our classrooms, when they walk across our graduation stages, when they leave our corrections facilities, they're going to employers, they're going back to the communities, they're going to their families, sometimes brand new people. And so it's our fingerprint that gets left on them. And it's so important that we create an experience where we're leaving good fingerprints, good trails for everyone. So I encourage all practitioners that see this, lean into how you can create the best experience. And remember, your impact and influence really changes our adult learners.
Well, Samantha, thank you. So well said. And you're missed in Georgia. We have some of your colleagues are floating in the chat box that they want you back. But I just thank you.
Not going back.
There you go.
We need her here.
If we wanted to get more information on the Center for Workforce Innovation, how can we reach you guys?
So you would be able to go to our website at the Center of Workforce Innovations. We're also located on LinkedIn. I believe we're on Facebook as well. And forgive me for not having those links readily available, but we'll definitely be able to share those. Ms. Danny just shared her email address in the chat. I will pop mine in there as well. But reach out. We're on a path now to create more connection with our practitioners, not just in Northwest Indiana, not just across the state, but as you mentioned, the work that happens nationwide.
We got you in the chat box, so you can check out the link. It's right in the chat box, and I'll take you right there. Danielle and Samantha, thank you so much for all that you do and for really making change happen in our country. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a productive Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. We're going to get to our next guest. And I'm really excited about having Stephenie Rittberger on. And Stephenie, we've been friends and worked through COABE on the board for a number of years. And how are you today?
I'm awesome. Things are going well.
Good. Well, rise and shine out there. We're getting people up and really into Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. And I'm super glad to see you and to get you on, because you've been in the center of this in COABE and all the work that's being done across the country. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about the work you do and your position?
Sure. So I'm the Adult Education Coordinator at the Career Learning Center of the Black Hills, which essentially serves most of Western South Dakota. And we work with about 500 students a year. And then in that role, we've also taken on some workforce innovations kinds of detailing, and we're a community-based organization. So we probably sit a little differently than a lot of places, but strong partnerships and community partnerships are really our bread and butter and the heart of what we do, as well as working with our local Department of Labor and our state Department of Labor and Regulation really closely. So it's big and it's broad, but it's really great.
It is awesome. So tell me about this, like the ideal partnership for you in the work that you do. What does that look like?
So for me, the ideal partnership is figuring out what I can do to serve, but then also figuring out how that partner has a place at our table and they serve our students significantly as well. I want to make sure that that is going back and forth and people are getting the best out of both. And I think some of that is kind of controlling the dialogue and making sure that the positives are looked at and that we can kind of work through any of the negatives without turning them into huge negatives. And I was really thinking about this just this morning. we've made a big push for Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. And one of the things I wanted to do was make sure the students were highly involved and that they knew the statistics and that they were able to speak to that. And they helped us get a bunch of candy sent out to all the local legislators as well as local mayors, and a local candy company which employs some of our students was the provider of the candy. So shout out to Custer Candy Company, who actually had the truffles, and they had them all pretty packaged. And on the box, it said adult education is a sweet deal. And then inside we added a friends and supporters letter that explained our best statistics. And we really broke it down. And I even had some of the students weigh in on, what is our best statistic? What do you think? And we had this old fact sheet, and the old fact sheet was actually putting out there, hey, we could educate our folks here for $763 per student. And that is a great thing. And we were doing great things with that little amount of money. It's increased since then, I want to say. But sometimes when you're doing something and you're doing something really cheap, it doesn't mean you're doing it super well. And so you want to say, hey, look, just as Samantha said, we need the tools to be able to do this and do this at the level where the students are really and truly and honestly prepared. And so I was pointing that out, and we actually were using the fact sheet. I'm looking right here so I get the right one, but we were using the Adult Education Business Strategy for Employers. And one of the things that I think the students thought was crazy is that skills are only good for 4 years. And so what it did is it really made a dialogue for the students too, to realize that they are going to be lifelong learners, that they're going to be upgrading their entire life, and that they will be taking tests their whole life. They're going to be tapping into adult education in weird and different ways to get to where they want to go. And they always want to be looking at that upward momentum. So it was a great way to talk to the students, but also a great way to look at our partners and tell them exactly what we need to.
Yeah, I love it. We started the show off today talking about the reality of how important data was. And Judy came on and really talked about NRS data and getting your voice out in the public comment. You've done something really remarkable. Number one, you've sweetened the pot literally by giving out that candy, which I absolutely love. But you've also engaged students and your learners. And that is something I don't think across the country we do enough. Look, when we go in to talk with legislators, quite frankly, we can give them all the data they want, but they're probably not going to remember a lot of it. But they are going to remember the students that come in front of them, the stories that come in front of them, the people that struggled and persisted and really were successful. And those are the people that we want to bring with us. And those are the stories we want to get out there. And engaging your students and your entire student population in this drive to make the field better is just awesome. And we need to follow your lead on doing it, because that it's just so important. I want to drive this to the workforce and workforce innovation and the work that's being done. You just heard from Samantha and Daniela as well, how important the connection to workforce is. And it doesn't seem like we've shied away from making that connection in the past. And it's only within the last 5 or 6 years that we've really driven hard the notion that to be successful at work and to really have a career pathway to success, you need basic math and reading skills, and you need to be proficient in those kinds of things. And I'm wondering how you are addressing those issues at Black Hills and the work that you're doing.
So we actually started a Workforce Connections program that came out of work that we did with the Minds That Move Us program, in 2018. So it's been a push that's been consistent over the course of the years. And we've been working at it diligently and dedicatedly. And I think some of the best things probably that really are going on here is we're always looking at what's going to set us up for next year's success. We're always looking at what's going to help the students to be retained within our walls and get the skills that they're going to need, and then feel like they can return to us for upgrades along the path if they need us as well. And so we're lucky because we work for an educational consortium, which has multiple layers and multiple facets, so we can tap into those things readily if we need to. But what I think is really great about it is that some local, very excellent local partnerships developed out of that. And so, for instance, the John T. Vakirovich Foundation comes in and they really support that workforce connections. And so we do have people who are talking with the students at least bi-weekly about what they want to do next, how they're going to tap in, what the next credential is, how you are going to be able to transition smoothly when you leave here. What is upward mobility when you walk into the workplace, and how are you looking at how you're going to earn a little more and be hitting a family sustaining wage? And I think one of the big things that really hit us this year was that we had a lot of students that were jumping off that benefits cliff. They're actually earning just a little bit over what they can, where they can tap into TANF or SNAP benefits or other benefits. And so they're super struggling because housing is exorbitantly high here. Most of them are paying more than a third of their income to housing. And then you add childcare and transportation on, and they were doing better on benefits than they are jumping off. And so
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah. And that's something that advocacy can really enlighten legislators so that they get a better understanding of really the practical implication of a law and regulation and what really happens when you talk about getting benefits and how challenging it is for some people that are right on that benefits cliff and what it looks like going through. So I'm curious, you've been doing this work for a while, and I know you tell awesome stories of people that have been impacted, but I'm curious if you could share with us today. This is, we're highlighting these stories for Adult Education Family Literacy Week to really show the impact of that adult education has on learners. And I'm curious, is there any story that sticks out in your mind of something you wanted to share?
Sure. I actually have like two that just really jump out at me very recently. And one just happens to be the fact that we have a student that recently started college on a Builds Dakota Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship in our state for nursing. She started in our program right before COVID, and she was actually at the Women Escaping a Violent Environment shelter with her son. And COVID hit, we lost her for a little while, and I couldn't even find her. But then when she returned, probably in July of 2019, we made a digital connection and figured out how to kind of reconnect. And when we did that, she took off and flourished. So not only did she make it out of a shelter, she went into more of a transitional housing. At that point, she got a CNA licensure and also went up almost 5 grade levels with her reading skills and math skills prior to taking a GED. Then she achieved a GED. Then she moved out on her own and, is in regular housing and paying all the regular bills, and then achieved this great scholarship. So now she's off to college and she's on fire. She's on fire. You can just see that I'm hoping that she will take care of me or my family members in the future when we need somebody to care for us sincerely. So shout out to her. She's amazing and going to do great things. And then the other one that really jumps out at me, we have got a tremendous math tutor in our program who's a previous student. And we have him on federal work study, and he's attending South Dakota School of Mines and Technology in physics. And the great thing about having him in our classroom particularly is that he graduated last year. He was our student speaker at graduation and started college and has done very well in school throughout the summer. So he's in his second semester. And what's interesting is that he's in there and he is explaining to every student what they can do to hit the next level running and why they should dream big. And why they should think about things that they never thought before that they were capable of. And it's one thing to hear it from my mouth, but it's a whole different thing to hear it from somebody that you see as a colleague or as your friend.
Yeah, those are the things those are the things that make change happen. Those are the things that legislators at all levels need to hear, our community needs to hear, and just to recognize all the great work that's being done across the country. Thank you so much. If we wanted to learn more, Steph, about your program and the work you guys are doing, how can we get more information?
you can go to our website, which is clcbh.org, and I'll throw that in the chat line. And you're always welcome to reach out and talk to me. And definitely, I will tell you what I've done right. I will tell you what I've done wrong, and I'll tell you what has worked for me and what hasn't. And I'm an open book, because I just want to see great things for the students. And if there's something you can steal from me, go for it.
Well, definitely a book worth reading. You've been doing this for a while, and you've been contributing on the COABE board for a long time, and really thank you for all the hard work and really getting out the messaging across the country of how important adult education and Family Literacy Week is, but adult education in general, and should be, again, an everyday kind of event. Steph, I'm giving you your one wish. If there was something you could change tomorrow in the work that you do to make the systems better that we have, what would you be talking about?
I think that I would talk about the fact that we need to control the dialogue, that we need to be the people that are explaining what's going right in our world. I always think about this. I have a sack of boonworms that I shake when I want my chickens to come, right? And when I shake it, they know that sound and they come running. Well, I want to have some facts that I'm sharing that are like boonworms that feed the partnerships, or feed the people who are funding me, feed the people who are keeping us doing the great work that we're doing. And I want them to say, oh yeah, I see why this is important. I see why continuing to support this is important. And I also want to be really specific about what we need. So I want to leave them with here's what I can do personally to help you, and here's what I can do professionally to help you.
Absolutely awesome. Steph, thank you so much. I know you put your website and also your email in there in the chat box, so feel free, check that out, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you to all of our guests. And before we wrap today, I do want to just tell you what's going on the rest of the week, or at least today. Today in particular is Twitter Tuesday. And Twitter Tuesday all day long. Just check out your tweets and retweet them. Get on there. You're going to be seeing some stuff posted by COABE throughout the day. We want to get the messaging out as much as possible. If you are not familiar with the COABE fact sheets that are on the website, you need to check those out. As we said, these are full of data, really strong, important points that you can take with you when you meet with a legislator, when you can share with your just in any kind of feed you want to get out there, just to educate the public about how important adult education is in our country. So want to give everyone a big thank you today for joining us, and all of our guests in particular. Thanks again. Tomorrow is again Rise and Shine, 9 o'clock. We want you to join us again tomorrow. It's going to be a wonderful, great day. We have a lot going on the next few days. And I also want to give you a heads up on a few other things. On Friday, we're going to be conducting a few things. Number one is the links. If you're not on links, you need to get onto links. It's through the U.S. Department of Education, and it's links, lincs.ed.gov, and that's the communities of practice for education. And you want to get on there. But in particular, on Friday, we're going to be doing a wrap up for AFL week at 1 o'clock in the links Correctional and Reentry Community of Practice, and then immediately following that is going to be a COABE event, and we're looking forward to that. And that's going to be a wrap up of our AFL week and highlights of everything great that's happened during the course of the week. So again, big shout out and thank you to all of our guests today, to RTI International for giving us some space here to launch this. And we're hoping that all of you will join us tomorrow for the Rise and Shine. And thank you for joining us. Have a great, productive day. Go out and advocate. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody.